So I want to go over a problem I had yesterday, and it has been going on for about a year. So yesterday I was at work. The air conditioner was blasting, causing me to shake, causing a taser-like feeling through my body. It made it difficult to press buttons. It made it difficult to do anything. It made it difficult to hold my pen while writing. My hands were shaking. It was difficult with that air conditioner above me. Well, I got a text message on my phone asking about next week how I'm going in the hospital. My manager wanted to know exactly when am I getting out of the hospital because I'm going in on September 11th, and then I'm supposed to spend 5 to 7 days getting my seizures triggered. They're gonna, they already see the shakes and the neurological activity, but they want to induce a seizure and kind of monitor and write down what happens. They said I might need multiple trips. I might need 4 more trips before the seizures actually are triggered. They say it's very common that that's the case because they want to spend like 7 days. Then I go back out. Then they spend 7 days in there. So I'm going to be sleeping in a hospital bed for 7 days getting my seizures triggered. That's not going to be fun. But they wanted me to go right back to work. So, I get my seizure triggered. I spend a week in the hospital. The next day I get out. I'm right back to work. But she wants to know what day. She wants to know if I can do Saturday and Sunday. I said, that's 5 days. Maybe. The doctors are talking 5 to 7, so maybe after 5 I can just zoom right there. So I'm trying to find that out today. But she texted me this asking, this is a time sensitive issue, I need an answer very soon. So I go to get the phone, I read the message, and I start trying to type. But I'm shaking from the air conditioning really bad. All of a sudden, the beeping from the safe starts going beep, beep, beep. My phone shakes out of my hand, falls on the ground, and breaks. Sometimes I fall, sometimes I have a seizure and they break, sometimes they slip out of my hand and break. Even with the cases, I buy cases all the time for my phones, but some of these cases aren't good enough to prevent them from breaking. And I use them with the broken screen for quite a while, but when you have a broken screen, eventually pieces start to go, the phone starts malfunctioning. So in the last year or 18 months, this is how many phones I've gone through. This is yesterday. This one's the one that broke yesterday. Here's the one from last year. Here's the one from about, I don't know, 8 months ago. Here's another one from about 8 months ago. Here's another one. And here's the flip phone I got from my roommate, but then he didn't want it, so it became back to me. So if you look at all these phones, these are all the phones that slip out of my hand, break. You can see the crack there, crack there, crack there, crack everywhere. This is an expensive issue, and not to mention the phone I'm recording this on. Yeah, that red thing is my emergency bracelet, by the way. That's so when I have a seizure, they have doctor's notes for the ambulance because the EMTs don't want to listen to my doctor. They need to hold off on giving me benzodiazepam until I get to the emergency room. They're supposed to bring me to Wentworth Douglas, but they refuse. They say because I live in Rochester, they will not bring me to Wentworth Douglas Hospital. They'll only bring me to Frisbee where I get malpractice, and they don't want to listen to my doctor out of Wentworth Douglas. Where the doctor at Wentworth Douglas has seen the seizures, they've have more documentation. Frisbee has nothing. So yeah, that's a problem. I'm actually having problems staying still, so yeah, that's better. So if you look at all these phones, that's a lot in about a year to 18 months to go through in money. This one was like 180. This one up here cost me over 100 when I first got it. Each one of these two were 60. And this one up here, the LG, I can't remember, but I remember it was top of the line when I first got it. Now, most of these phones were old news 18 months ago. These ones were in the middle, that's why, well, these two were in the middle, that's why they were cheap. This was the oldest one. These two are the oldest. This is the newest. This one I bought only about, I don't know, 6 months ago or so. Yeah, about 6 months ago I bought this one. I had this one and this one working 6 months ago. I had 2 lines for myself. This one stopped working. This one was broken, so then I had to get one for work that would work with my company. But it's a lot of phones to go through. Cost a lot of money to have a neurological disorder and a seizure issue, and a issue with your nervous system that goes into your hands and legs, and then not be able to get medical treatment. I'm trying here, but it's, I'm undoing 25 years of somebody else's mistakes. It's not easy. I mean, they spent 15 years trying to cover it up as well. When that happens, that makes me wait longer. If this was identified and treated or even talked about at age 7, at age 8, at age 9, at age 10, if there was more to go along with this, it wouldn't be this hard of a process. Most people who have seizures like me, they don't have to go through everything I'm going through. But they didn't have a mother trying to cover up their actions, trying to start a Social Security case early based off of just symptoms and medications. Most people didn't have drugs constantly being forced into their body. Most people aren't held down and given double doses of drugs. Most people don't have a crazy mother making up stories about them. Like, for instance, my mother, I won a swimming medal. I won something. This is just one example of hundreds. What did she do? Did she say, good boy, or oh, that's great? No. She's told everybody that I stole my own swimming medal. And she made up a story, said it must be an African American, saying I must be too weak and too white to be winning my own swimming medal. Then she stole my medal and refused to give it to me. These are the type of behaviors that mess with a kid's mind. So I was dealing with mind fucks at the same time as health issues. And while this is going on, while I'm being mind fucked by my mother, while I'm having health issues from whatever happened with that medication, the medications are going all over the place. I'm being drugged. I'm being held down, given double doses. My mother's giving me extra Epicac as a punishment. All these things are fucking up my head, so of course it was hard to establish any proper medical care. And now that for the last 5 years, from the age of 25 on, I've been going to doctors, sober, doing everything. Of course this is going to be difficult. I mean, I have to undo 15 years of my mother's mistakes, and then I have to undo or deal with about another, 8 years of my drug addiction, and then I also have to get proper medical care and do everything the doctors are saying, where sometimes what the doctors tell me to do contradicts itself, like stay away from cold, loud noises and flashing lights, but at the same time go to work. So I'm walking on the side of the road with loud noises, cold, and flashing lights. So if I want to go to work and pay the bills and make sure I do that, I'm going to have to put my life in the danger. And I do it all the time. I live in the danger zone. Early from childhood, my life was being put in the dangerous situations, especially with drugs. So I'm very comfortable. I'm very used to, not comfortable, I'm very used to being put into dangerous situations, with doctors, with drugs, on the side of the road. I mean, I was even, when I was living homeless, I was 19, living in the woods, living in shelters, people that had drug addicts and rapists and pedophiles and all different types of people trying to get at me for all different types of things. And I had no other choice. I had nowhere to go but the shelter, the woods at first. Once when people realized how such a good person I am, and that's not me saying that, other people would say, you're the most kind-hearted person. Why are you out here? Yeah, this doesn't make any sense. You should be in college or running a business someplace, or you should be doing this. Or everybody was like, you shouldn't be out here. You're way too kind-hearted. You're way too honest. We don't understand why you're out here. I used to just tell them drugs. That's it. I'm out here because I like drugs. That's the answer I used to give them. They go, yeah, but there has to be more. Yes, there is. I stole something. I stole illegal drugs. I stole something. I'm disabled. I was treating an illness. I didn't get an education. I can't get a job. Social Security is not paying out to me, and they never will as long as I is still alive. Social Security doesn't understand why my mother's lies don't match my body and my health. Well, what they said does not match what I'm saying. So either my mother was lying about a 7-year-old and truly didn't know what she was doing, or I know myself, I know my body, and I'm being honest about my body and my health. What's more likely? That I know what I'm experiencing, like when I fall, I know I fell, or that my mother just makes up a whole mental case at age 7 and that's everything. No. No. I know myself better than anybody else. I've spent 25 years time testing my body. I really wanted to know what these things mean, so I've kept them in mind. Plus, I have flashbacks. I have PTSD from some of these things. So, yes, I know exactly what my body is doing. Now, how do I explain that is the next question. How do you explain what's happening? You feel something in your arm or hand or nervous system, or a seizure happens and you wake up on the side of the road in the middle of nowhere going, what the hell just happened? How do you describe that situation? When you wake up on the ground with a bunch of scratches and your head hit and you don't know what's going on, how do you explain that? Well, you go to a medical professional and you time test it. I'm on my 18th seizure. I'm on like my 18th waking up on the side of the road, or waking up with head injuries, or bouncing my head against something, or flying in the air and then hitting the ground. I mean, like one time my seizures it hit me while I was walking. I was walking down the sidewalk and lo, there was witnesses all around me. All of a sudden, my legs straightened and I just kind of like couldn't move. I couldn't bend my legs or anything. They just straightened and kind of flew me forward. And next thing I know, I'm just out, just on the ground. I remember just falling to the ground and then nothing. My legs, I couldn't move. I felt the seizures coming on too, about an hour, 2 hours before I actually had it. That's why I was going for a walk. I kept on, I couldn't sit still. It was hurting. It felt like somebody was tasing me. So I said, hey, let's go for a walk. So I went outside, went down 5 steps, took a left. Then all of a sudden, I'm out having a seizure. Now, I've talked to 3 different witnesses that were there. They said I was flopping on the ground like a fish. I was out like a light. My head was all smashed up, my legs, body, everything. Now, when I got to the emergency room, I had no clue what was going on with me. I was just describing it, but at this time I wasn't describing it quite properly. I was calling it lightning down my spine. Now, I didn't talk to the doctor yet. I'm in the emergency room. The primary care is who I was describing it with. The emergency room doctor has not talked to me because I was out like a light. When I do wake up, finally the doctor comes by. I ask him, what happened? What happened? What's going on with me? He goes, we want to run some further tests, but you had a seizure. I go, oh, I finally have an answer what to call this, going out and waking up unconscious and shaking to the ground and then all this. Okay, so it's a seizure? Yeah, he says he's sure it's a seizure. He wants to run some more tests and then he will release me. So he runs some more tests. He says it definitely was a seizure and then releases me because I was scared at this point. I've been dealing with this for 25 years. At this time I wasn't on any drugs. The only drug I was on was gabapentin, and I was prescribed that, so it wasn't a big deal. And whenever I did have the seizure activity, I would try to treat it with stuff like alcohol, opiates, gabapentin. Before that, there was cough medicine at like 16, 17, around there. So, yeah, that's not good. But luckily, I had a clean urine. The only thing in my urine was gabapentin that day. Or maybe I had something from a month prior, like marijuana, but I doubt it. There was sobriety for that whole week, that whole time. That's something that was important to me at all times. But my health is important to me. Being able to function in life is important to me. And if I'm having this seizure activity, this taser-like feeling going through my body, I can't walk proper, I can't move my arms proper, and I can't speak proper. I can think just fine, but I only can think on a bed or the floor or a chair, and I can't move, and even in the chair I shake, or even in bed I shake. I mean, I've literally shooken and seized in my bed, on the floor, anywhere. Doesn't matter where I am. So that makes it very hard to do things like work, go to certain places you want to go. Like if you have friends to hang out with at the movies and it's going to be loud, you want to be able to make sure you can control it. Now, as a child, I would just hold it back. But that didn't work too well because I would get really upset and pain. It wasn't really good. As well as people want to force you to move your body and cause you more pain. I'll give you another example. I was maybe about 10 during this. No, I was younger. I was probably 8 years old. This was right after my mother gave me a handful of drugs and hurt me. So we were visiting Aunt Alice. This is an aunt. And we were visiting her, I think it was either in York or Salisbury. And we were walking to the beach. The first walk there wasn't too bad. It was pretty warm. We went to the beach, we sat, people did their thing, but it started to get a wind chill on the beach. It started to get a little chilly. So I asked to go home because it was starting to hurt me. I said, can I go home? Can we go back? Can we go someplace else? This is getting cold. And I'm starting to shiver. I'm starting to feel really painful and lock up in my body. I can't talk. I have a pail and a bucket in front of me. I'm just sitting there. And I'm asking to go home. Please get me out of this cold. Please get me out of this cold. Just asking. Come on. So then everybody wants to leave. Great. But there's a problem. I'm having problems moving my legs without making the pain worse. So my mother and everybody else leaves. I tell my mother, I'm not going. And I can't because my legs, if I use them, I'm going to have more pain in my nervous system. But as a child, I can't explain this. I'm like 7 years old with a pail and a bucket. All I know is when I try to move, it hurts. And the cold is making it worse. But if I try to get up and walk with them, yeah, I'll warm up at home, but I have to walk, and that's going to make it worse. So it doesn't feel good. It's very painful. And then my mother goes, I'm just going to leave you here. So she walks and leaves me there. I'm not going anywhere. I can't move my legs. I'm really cold. I'm feeling this in my whole body. And if I get up and start walking, it's going to fucking hurt. It's going to tase me. So I stay. I stay with the bucket. I'm all bundled up. I'm kneeling. I got my arms across the bucket, everything. At this point, she eventually comes back after about 5 minutes, grabs my shirt, and just pulls me off the beach. Now, of course, I did shake, I did shiver, I was cold, and I was in severe pain. And if anybody saw it, they would say, oh, Zach looks really in pain, Zach looks really upset. But see, they didn't care about that. They would just call that depression, or they would call it a mental illness, and then I was left to suffer. Instead of taking care of the actual medical condition, your child is exhibiting signs that there's something wrong. There's something wrong with his physical body and his nervous system. But he cannot get help because people keep on wanting to cover it up with their own lies and ideas. They also want to pump drugs into me to cover it up as well. And part of the reason why they did that is for Social Security, but the other reason is why, who the hell wants to admit that they accidentally drugged their child or purposely drugged their child? Nobody's going to come out and admit that, and that's part of it. If you do something wrong, you should take responsibility for your actions. If you make a mistake, you should own it right away. But that's not what people do. My mother was not going to come forward and say, I made a mistake, I caused a permanent physical disability in my child, or she wasn't going to come forward and say that. Absolutely not. And that's why you can't ask the people who are going to get into trouble for it. You got to ask the victims. You got to ask the people that don't have a say in it. They call that a third party, or there's another word for it, an objective witness, somebody who has no say in the outcome. That's who you need to talk to. The people that have the information, that have no say in the outcome, have nothing to gain, nothing to lose. Now me, do I have anything to gain by speaking about this? Absolutely not. Only my health. The only thing I can gain from speaking about this and trying to get justice for what happened to me and trying to get my body back, the only thing that I can get is my health. Do I want anybody else to pay for it? No. The person who did it to me is dead. There's no more she can do. God is handling her. I don't have to do anything. But I deserve to be able to get proper medical treatment. And as long as everybody is believing in a fantasy, that's my mother's fantasy, I'm not able to do that. And I've already spent 25 years suffering for somebody else's actions. I've already taken hundreds of drugs that I did not choose to take, that were forced on me. There were even times where I was given double drugs or extra drugs against my will. I even developed a drug habit because of these behaviors and because of my choice to do so. But of course, having traumatic events happen to you does affect the outcome of your future. So, I'm going to have to pay today to replace this phone. And look at all these from the last 18 months. That's a lot of phones. So yeah, this cost me a fortune to have this disorder. But if I don't have a phone, I can't get the help I need. So having a phone is important. I have a satchel case that goes on my belt. I have a rubber or whatever case around the phone itself. I even got a key ring where you put your finger on the hole so that helps it not drop. I wish I was using that finger hole yesterday. But I just picked it up to text her, the beeping happened, and boom, it's out of my hand. On the floor, broken. And that's not the first time I've dropped that. In the last month, I've dropped that phone, I don't know, maybe 20 times. This was just the first time it broke. I drop phones, coffee mug stuff all the time. I'm really butterfingers. But that's because I can't feel what I'm touching, and I shake, and my nervous system's been fucked up for 25 years. And what do they chalk it up to? Oh, Zach's just upset and depressed. That's what they'll tell. I'm in pain in the corner. Tears are coming out of my eyes because I'm in so much pain. I'm getting lightning and a taser like feeling shooting through my spine, arms, legs. My leg is bouncing up. I can't walk proper. My coordination is off. I look upset because I am upset. Every winter and fall, as the cold weather comes in, I get more in pain and more in pain, and everybody wants to chalk it up to some depression or he's upset or something like that. Well, if that's the case, then you would think that depression medication would help. And seeing as I've tried like 40 different depression medications and they made me really worse as well as I really did get depression. See, now I know what depression is because I've taken drugs that cause depression. And I now, for the last, I don't know, 15 years, I realize that this is not depression. Obviously, having a shock feeling like a taser going through your nervous system is not depression. But what will most of people like my father and mother call it? Oh, Zach's just upset. See, that doesn't work too well now because I'm able to explain what's going on with my body. That's why I'm the best advocator for myself. But after my seizures, I can't speak. I can't advocate for myself. I have, just like as a child, children cannot advocate for themselves. When something horrible is being done to them, when their health is in risk, they don't know how to speak up about that. They cannot advocate for themselves. They do not know their bodies, and they do not know what to do to get the help they need. It's up to the parents to help. But my mother was the person doing this to me, so the person doing it to me can't help me with what she's doing. All she had to do was stop being a nut. She had to stop drugging me. She had to stop giving me extra drugs. She had to admit to the drugging that she already did. She has to admit that there was a physical problem that day and there was an overdose that I experienced, and she made a decision not to bring me to the emergency room. She made a decision not to listen to the doctor on the phone, and now I'm going to have this for the rest of my life. It doesn't matter if my father comes and helps me or not. Anyways, if you think, well, why not ask your father to help you? You keep on calling him such a good guy. Well, why is he just letting you suffer? Well, that's because he's in denial. But there's another problem too. If he helps me, great. If he doesn't matter. I'm still going to suffer no matter what. I'm still going to have this for the rest of my life, no matter what I do. But getting proper medical care would be the next best step. And getting people to stop believing in a fantasy would be another good step too. Everybody deserves the truth. And now that I'm old enough to explain what was happening to me, what's going on with me, what was being done with me, some of the behaviors from me and my mother that I witnessed, that can help people get a better picture of what was going on. Like, I bet a lot of people don't know what was going on with my mother's drug pill popping and the alcohol. I tried to explain it to my father, but he wanted to go into denial. He'll say something like, well, that only happened one time. Or, well, I don't know about that. Or okay, that happened, but don't talk about it. These are the type of answers that I'll get from him. He doesn't want to have a deep, meaningful conversation about what happened. He doesn't want to move forward. He wants to sit in denial farther back. He wants to remove himself from his life. All his family, friends, people like that, yeah, they're okay as long as they don't have to give him any trouble. As soon as he has to take responsibility or have a tough conversation, that's too much. So keep that in mind. I'm going to suffer no matter what action I go forward, but getting proper medical care and giving people the truth, if they want to believe it or not, is the best way forward. I also got to keep working very hard and putting myself in dangerous situations because I need to have money to survive. So I need to work for a living until Social Security kicks in. But somebody lied to Social Security. Somebody manipulated Social Security. So my truths are hard. It's going to take longer because they have to unravel everything. It, it is difficult. I'm going from having one diagnosis from permanent disabilities that have disappeared to having permanent disabilities that were never reported. So I had permanent disabilities that just disappeared that my mother and father were reporting. But I also have permanent disabilities that started at age 7 that they don't see on my medical record. So of course that's very confusing. So I may never get Social Security, meaning that I might pass away or get hurt or die before that gets finalized. I should be able to receive Social Security with all the injuries, seizures, emergency room visits, everything that happened to me. I should be able to receive it. But it requires some things that I might not be able to keep, like an address, a phone. It also requires me being able to go to meetings, fill out paperwork by myself. It also requires me speaking the truth, what I am doing, but what the truth is doesn't match all these paperwork. It is completely nuts what was said about me and the drugs that were being given to me. And the fact they were reporting my side effects from my medication like they were permanent disabilities, that's a problem too, because I've had disabilities just clear up and go away. Well, if I try to tell them that, yeah, I can establish that it's true. But you know what? It's really hard to do so. When you have 400 doctors in your life, that's hard to do. Because keep in mind, as a child, I didn't just establish with one doctor and that was my doctor. I had a doctor in Westford. I actually had a doctor in St. Anne's. Then I had a doctor in Westford. Then I had a doctor in El Paso. Then I had a doctor in New Mexico. Actually, New Mexico was a little different. It wasn't, but I still had medication in New Mexico coming from a doctor that wasn't seeing me. I had a doctor after that in Maine, or I was in Maine, but my doctor was just on the phone at that point. Then when I was in Massachusetts, I had a doctor in Chelmsford. I had a doctor in Haverhill. I had a doctor in Lawrence. Then I had a doctor back in Haverhill. Most of the time, my doctors were near my programs. There were established different doctors that I always saw differently. We would see them for a couple of years. Like the doctor in Lawrence, my mother was all talkative with. She was ready to make up all different types of things. It wasn't really great. And that Dr. Rosenblum that we drove, he was just a psychologist. He wasn't going to help me with my physical health. No, he was ready to just write down more prescriptions based off my mother's accounts. And when I called my mother a liar, when I used to bring up some of the issues, you know what she would say? Oh no, you're just mad at your biological mother. You're not mad with me. You're mad at your biological mother. No, I'm mad at you for giving me extra Epicac. I'm mad at you for not telling me what's going on with that night with a handful of pills, and now I'm permanently disabled. Something's wrong with my body, and you're not doing anything about it. That's what got me mad. And then her lies and manipulations, that got me mad too. I mean, God's sake, you're lying about your child. I win a swimming medal, and you tell everybody I stole it. You're making up all these stories about how I steal stuff I don't steal. You're making up stories about my foot and slicing myself when I didn't slice myself. I fall out of a tree, I sliced myself. My foot gets cut up on a pool, I sliced myself. I get burnt or hurt, I must have burned myself. That's how psychotic she was. She was telling other people that I'm doing stuff to myself when really it's just getting hurt. I bumped into something and I have cuts on my shins. I used to get cuts on my shins a lot because of my coordination and lack of movement in my body. My mother tells me I must be doing that on purpose. I must be bumping my legs into things, cutting up my shins on purpose. Do you realize how difficult that's going to make it for me to get proper diagnoses when your mother goes around telling doctors, friends, everybody that you're bumping into stuff on purpose, that you're getting cut up, bruised, sliced on purpose? Yeah, I did not slice open my foot. A pool, a fence, did that. When I'm bumping into stuff and my shins get cut up, that's because of this nervous system issue where I can't control my body. I've always had that. Even a doctor told you I have coordination issues, but did you look into it? No, ballet. Ballet is what she gave me as a cure. And then she went around telling everybody I'm doing this stuff to myself. It's messed up. She tried to make it sound like I'm some guy that's self-suicidal and I'm destroying myself. And after years of this, after going through age 5, all the way to 15 and having your mother do this, make up stories about you over and over, tell people that I'm cutting myself, I'm stealing things, I win some great prize at a school or orphanage, I win a big medal, and you say I stole it, and then you take it from me. When I bump into stuff and my shins are cut up, oh, I must be doing it to myself. When I slice open the back of my foot, I must be doing it to myself. Then she tries to convince me and brainwash me into thinking I'm schizophrenic on top of that. So all this combined, yeah, it's going to make it very, very difficult to get proper medical care. And I might die before I get there. I've already put many, many, many years and thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars into getting better and getting proper medical care. But in the snap of two fingers, they could flip back and I could get improper medical care again. But thanks to my mother and what she was doing, if any doctor goes by her records, what she was saying, I'll get hurt again. They'll just give me the wrong drugs, I'll lose everything again, and I won't get any better. I'll probably get depression or hangovers or side effects, but my nervous system won't get better if they're not treating a seizure or neurological disorder that's in the nervous system. And that's what happens when a mother doesn't want to report the symptoms properly. If your child's bumping into stuff, getting cut all the time, if his foot's getting cut open, if his shins are getting cut open, if he's falling out of trees and his arms getting cut open, well, maybe that's an important thing to go over. Maybe that has something to do with him, like him bumping into tables and chairs and falling on the ground a lot, or not having the best balance on things. That might be an important fact to go over. But if you try to say, oh no, you must be cutting open your own shins, you must be cutting open your own foot, you didn't fall out of a tree, you cut your own arm. When you do that, the only thing you're going to get is treatment for a mental illness. Suicidal behaviors and self-destructive behaviors. That's what they call that. And that's not going to help me one bit. I just want to live, be healthy, I have a healthy diet, I want to do the best thing for my body. But see, my mother telling people these things, these lies about me cutting there was one time where I tried cutting, and this is after my mother already told everybody I was hurting myself. So at this point I said, well, if my mother's going to go around telling people that, maybe I should see if it will actually help. It didn't, by the way. Cutting, I tried it one time on my left arm, did not work, did not help at all. But I had cuts on my shins, I had cuts on the back of my foot, my right arm, I fell out of a tree, it went sliced up. All these different types of incidents had to do with my coordination issue, my balance, my lack of nervous system. And did it ever get reported, these shins? No. And she went around telling people that I'm cutting open my own shin, cutting open my own foot, cutting open my own right arm. So of course I'm not going to get help. Of course that's going to make it even worse, because instead of me getting one report that I cut myself one time, now I got a mother going around making up crazy stories about things that she has no clue in. And she has other witnesses telling her that she's insane. She has my nephew and my brother telling her that the back of my foot, there's no way. Even my father said there's no way that he did that to himself, because I didn't. There is no way I cut open my own foot in that way. But my mother, that's what she wanted to believe. That's what she wanted to spread. She wanted to spread lies about me. How about my shins? When I tried to go to her and talk to her about this is a boy thing, boys get their shins scraped, they get some cuts on their shins, when really I just bump into stuff all the time. All the time. I'm always having my shins cut, bruised, or scraped. That's just really common with my medical issue. Does she want to go over that? No, I must be doing it to myself, she spreads to everybody. Okay. Well, how about my right arm? I fell out of a tree and my whole right arm got all, just one slice. It wasn't even a slice. It was a tree branch that got into my skin and then pulled all the way down. So it looked like a real deep scratch. Like if you took a tree branch and scratched yourself real hard down. Well, I had a witness there. I was climbing a tree. The branch broke. My arm got caught. It scratched me. There was a witness there. Me and that witness both said, hey, I scratched myself, I might need to take care of this wound. Nope, now she's going to spread everybody that I cut myself again. These lies were hurting me mentally and physically. It prevented me from getting medical care. It prevented the real problem from coming out. But that's what she wanted. She didn't want the real problem